Well, good morning, everyone. We welcome you to Blues Game Day Live alongside Joe Vitale. I'm Darren Peng. The Blues skating behind us right here, Big Joe. It's not an optional skate. Everybody's out there, including Joel Edmondson and Carl Gunnarsson, and they're looking pretty darn good. Blues getting healthy at the right time of the year. That is great news down the stretch.
Absolutely, especially from the two big defensemen they're going to need down the stretch here. I thought Michael Del Zotto has done a terrific job. This is why Doug Armstrong brought him to the group. I thought he's filled in very nicely, but it's certainly great to see the two big bodies on the back end back there.
I'm going to stay on the defensive theme here as the Blues get ready for the Detroit Red Wings tonight. They're going to face a pretty speedy guy in Dylan Larkin. They've got some good young players over there in Detroit, although they're a team right now that are looking more towards who they're going to draft, and more so than climbing the ladder. But the defensive pairing of Colton Parayko and Jay Bouwmeester, it just keeps getting better and better against speed. And I say that because they shut down Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, and for the first time since January 19th against the Flames, McDavid and Draisaitl did not have a point, either one of them. So that says an awful lot. And now they've got the task of going up against another speedy player in Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, well, I think you look at him too, and then Anthony Sio. They actually just moved Anthony Sio to the middle recently this year, so there's two big guys down the middle that's going to be tough. But you mentioned Colton Parayko and Jay Bouwmeester, and the one thing that stands out about both those guys is how their pairing continues to evolve and shut down is just they use their length. They use Colton Parayko, for example. He's got one of the longest strides, I think, of any defenseman in this league, and he uses it to close time and space very well. And Jay Bouwmeester on the flip side, I don't think there's a defenseman that uses his stick better than Jay. He's always got it in the right position. He never lifts it off the ice. He's always got it in the right lanes. He boxes out very well. This has been such a great shutdown pair for Craig Berube, and I think that allows Pietrangelo and Vince Dunn to kind of get up the ice and get a little bit more offensive. And I want to throw this at you, Darren. The Pietrangelo goal last game versus Edmonton, where he started behind his own net. We always talk about deactivating, but that was something special right there, wasn't it?
He read that perfectly, and I like the way Jaden Schwartz kind of stutter-stepped. He kind of saw that there was something going on the weak side towards the Blues bench, and he waited, and he just laid that puck just beautifully for Alex Pietrangelo. Yesterday after practice, Craig Berube was asked whether or not he'd consider using Alex Pietrangelo on the in any kind of shootout. And typical Chief, he didn't mince words. He's like, well, I mean, no, not really. I mean, there was pressure on him there, and it was not like a shootout where you've got all the time in the world. But it was a nice move. I think Alex Pietrangelo's played some really good hockey here. I think, obviously the goal that he scored, but he wires one off the crossbar. His passes have been very good. The power play units are looking very confident with their movement all the way around the ice. And the other guy, Jaden Schwartz, that made that pass, obviously his fourth career hat trick, Joe, and that's great. We've seen this kind of come, and it's been percolating like a fine cup of coffee, hasn't it?
Yeah, wow. That was
maybe some good old bread.
Yeah,
I mean,
fermenting
for bread,
cold fermentation,
percolating for the coffee,
developing deep, bold flavors.
Yeah,
yes, it's coming along.
Yeah, he's a deep, bold flavor.
It's funny that Ken Hitchcock had some just wonderful comments about his former player, and he talked about he can't think of a Blues player that better embodies Blues hockey than Jaden Schwartz. And you talk about him, and yes, he struggled offensively this year, but he really thinks he found his whole game, defensive hockey, plays away from the puck, and I have to agree with him there. And one thing about Jaden, we've gotten to know him on a personal level, Darren, especially you, but you looked at his struggles this year and how he has lacked points, but I tell you what, every game he shows up, and we all know what the body language looks like of a player who gives up, and it's never been Jaden Schwartz's MO. He's always going out there. He's always doing the right things. He's urgent. He plays with pace. He's always holding on to the puck. The numbers just weren't there, but man alive, he's starting to come alive, and this is even scarier of a group now with Jaden Schwartz playing the way he's playing.
Pretty unique, too, that you've got David Perron on the right side. He had a heck of a game as well. He could have had 4 or 5 goals, according to Craig Berube yesterday after we went over all the video, and then David Perron. So you've got two guys that are creative, that are tenacious, that will not give up on pucks, and then you've got a center iceman in Oscar Sundqvist that just keeps rolling along. Oscar's on the ice right now. I mean, everybody that watched the game or listened to the game the other night, he went into the boards pretty heavily, and it meant it was Lucic that he was expelled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I talked to Oscar about it yesterday. We had pitcher day here at Enterprise Center, and I was talking.
You look
to Oscar.
really nice in that suit, by the way.
Yeah. I was talking to Oscar about it, make sure he was okay, and truthfully, I didn't really understand a word he said. But the fact of the matter is, he was out on the ice, and he looked like he was okay, and here he is now, and he seems to be fine, and thank goodness, too, because he's been a horse.
Yeah, because I've got a trophy for him. It's called the Most Improved Player in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
And it's Oscar Sundquist, and he has been terrific. We'll skip along to Patrick Maroon then. Mm-hmm. Big fight, confidence growing. Took a hit from Chris Russell early in the game, kind of winced his neck a little bit. He was getting some work on the bench during the game. Then he goes out, and this is the great game of hockey. Zach Kassian is his buddy. They had dinner the night before at Patty's place. And then sure enough, Zach needs to stir things up because his coach is on him for this game, not going the way the Edmonton Oilers like, and he's got to fight his buddy. Yeah. Right at center ice.
Amazing.
Right here in St. Louis.
What a game. What a game we're a part of right now.
It's a great game, isn't it?
It's funny because I knew that Zach and Pat were good friends from the old days, and in between periods after the fight, I texted Pat's brother, Phil, and I said, hey, these guys are good friends, and what's going on? And he goes, well, they were out the night before, and they were together pretty much all day the game day as well. And again, it's just you got to put a smile on your face, and you love the response of Pat Maroon, and especially after Kassian was going after the Blues' best player, and Ryan O'Reilly gave him a couple hard whacks to the back of his leg. And I think what Pat did, fighting Kassian in that moment, it did settle things down a little bit. I think the Edmonton Oilers, known for their physicality, they like to come in, they love stirring the pot, and I think we were starting to see that with the 4-0 lead for the Blues, and I thought what Pat Maroon did, extremely courageous. Kassian, one of the toughest players in the league. It really did settle things down at that point. Yeah,
I talked to Pat yesterday, and Zach Kassian's a lefty. It was very obvious to me watching the fight that he's a lefty, and Pat goes, I knew he was a lefty. I was hoping so, Pat. Going into a fight, like I would think that would be a priority.
Yeah.
And he's your buddy, and you've seen him fight 100 times. Anyway, that line's obviously been terrific as well. Before we wrap up, the Detroit Red Wings give up a lot of shots. Looks like Jonathan Bernier's going to be the goalie of record for tonight's game. They've given up, I think, over 34 shots in 5 of the last 6 games. This is a game in which Pat Maroon down low. The way that the Blues hold on to that puck in the offensive zone against a team that's not defending very well. They could really run this team down early on in the game and take any will away from Detroit. That would have to be a huge key here tonight.
I think so. Having a good start to the game. I think when the Blues get up early in the games, they have a way of sustaining that lead. And on the flip side, when they find themselves behind, especially against teams that aren't in the playoffs, they find themselves chasing. So I think a big start to the game is going to be key. Getting that early goal is going to be key. And like you said, Darren, I believe you're right. Getting around that crease, hanging around that area. Pat Maroon, David Perron. We saw him on that third opportunity goal off the backside of, I believe it was Koskinen still at the time. I mean, those kind of goals, those kind of dirty goals are going to be key here because you mentioned Detroit, and they got a couple players they signed out of college. A lot of youth in the lineup right now. They're looking for individual performances out of some of these players, but they can be had here tonight.
So 38 wins for the Blues. 30 of them, they've scored the first goal of the game. So that's Joey's keys for tonight's game. The pregame show, 6:30 on the radio side. That's on KMOX, isn't it, Joey?
Blowtorching it
That's
up.
50,000-watt blowtorch.
Yes, sir.
People in Saskatchewan can listen to the game, Joe. You're famous.
Punta Cana. I mean, if you're on spring break, wherever.
Yeah, everybody can listen to
Anywhere.
Curbs and Joe. So
can't get rid of us.
6:30, the 7 o'clock puck drop, and of course, John Kelly and I have the call as well on Fox Sports Midwest on the television side. And we hope you have a great day. Lots of college basketball this afternoon, and then hunker down and get ready for a big hockey game here tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. It's the Blues and Wings. It's an old rivalry. They don't play each other very much anymore. Come down and appreciate and enjoy it, and we'll see you there. For Joe Vitale, I'm Darren Pang. Have a great day, everybody.